Okay, I caught myself before I screwed up a cut. So when I made this piece, it just happened to land this way. There's the cut, my angle cut. And then I trimmed the bottom and I trimmed the top. I'm plumb here, okay? But what I failed to realize was this is not a 90-degree angle. This is now a 6-degree angle. And it's not straight with this. So I've got to have my cut on the door side in order for this to be straight across and this to be a 90, which may not make that much difference. You got to remember, the door is going to be in here, right? And it would look a lot nicer if this is straight with the door than it would be if it's angled slightly, if you can see it anyway. And then the same thing on the other side, and that's where I am right now. I'm double checking which is the side I need to cut in order to make sure I maintain straightness here. Let's put this here the other way. Alright, it's the same phenomenon. I need the cut side towards the door and the mill side towards the door jamb. Alright. So what's important about that is the bottom cut and the top cut are not the same. So once I commit to this thing, I can't turn it around and make it fit right. So let's go over to the table saw and I'll show you what I'm doing. And right now I got my table saw set at, what is that, a 6-degree angle. And I just got done trimming this piece. My first cut is on this side of the fence. I've got the fence moved over and the blade as high as it'll go, and it'll cut up to that line right there. My second cut, I didn't change the angle of the blade. I moved the fence on the other side of the blade, and then I made this cut. Believe me, it was in there. Okay, and I left it just a little bit shy so I can block plane the rest of that off easily, or belt sand it for that matter. So I got my wood. Let's see which one I got here. This is the rear one, and I wrote here metal side. And this is going to be door side, 6-degree bevel. That's the top. Okay, and the reason why this didn't fit in there just now is because that was actually not the cut I just completed. It was this one. Where's my line? There it is. So I just got done cutting this just now. And I got a little closer on this one, which is great. Got really right on the spot right there. A little bit of a divot. That's okay. This came out great. So I've already got this one figured out how it's going to go on the bus. Next I'm going to go take this over to the bus and make sure which way is up. And then I'm going to start to make my angle cuts on the bottom. Finish this off. And wow, it's coming out, man. It's coming out great. So far, it's coming out absolutely great. I'm very, very pleased. Gosh, I'm so happy how it's coming out. So now that I'm able to see how it's coming together, I'm more confident how I want to do this. Alright, this one's a hair off up there. Alright, so here's what I'm thinking. I think these 1x4s definitely need to line up on the back straight side here. Okay, so on the inside it'll give us a nice look. like that. You know, in my mind earlier in this process, I wanted the door out to the outer edge as much as possible, just for aesthetics. But now I'm seeing that's not really that important. So I do have variation in the width here, maybe an 1/8 of an inch or so. And I'm using the stick method here to do my measuring for me. But I think I'm at the point now where I want to put a couple of screws. I can use wood screws in these pieces to hold them in place, because I'm having a fight where they're at, and they actually need to be up a good 3/32 of an inch to meet the top. So I've got an air space at the bottom, which will be filled with caulk, and I won't have a water wicking issue, or at least minimize my water wicking issue up the bottom. So if I can screw this in, get it tight, then I can get better measurements. Okay, and then I'm gonna find the places where I have to take down some of this surface in order to get a straight line. It's going to be more at the top, and maybe some places in the middle. Yeah, that's what we're going to do next. We're gonna final fit these pieces into place right there. Okay, and yeah, then we can start to get our accurate width measurements all the way up, and then get accurate, well, I guess that comes when I come to assembling the door across the bottom. But on the top, it's going to be the same deal. I'm going to frame up the actual door inside this opening with the required space. I'll probably make some shims with the required space to simulate the aluminum edging that's going to go on the side and the gap. Alright, we made some really good progress. So it's getting to be, I don't know, almost 2 o'clock. Sun's on this side of the bus now, so I'm getting cooked. Let me show you how straight I got this. Yeah. Got a little bit of a belly right there in the middle. Could probably take a little bit more off the top. Oh, wait a minute, I'm measuring the wrong things. Hold on. There we go, that's better. I thought it was. Alright, so yeah, this piece is the, I don't know what you want to call this, the outside part of the door jamb. This little piece in here, the 1x4, that's where the door is going to go up against. And it's like dead on. Alright, all the way up. So what I did to achieve that is I used a belt sander, and I just kept sanding off the high spots. Alright, so I'm actually at a point where I can't go any further, comfortably anyway, because I've got some areas back here that are, you know, they have a bit of a gap and they're springy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and final install this piece of board today with the Gorilla adhesive. I'm kind of nervous doing that because it ain't ever coming off once I put it on there. And so then I'll have something more solid and less springy for me, so I can finish working on this to get this piece trued up, and the hinge side will then be my boss on everything else. I'm not going to attach this with any glue. I'm going to attach this with screws for now anyway. Probably put glue in it when I'm finally done, but I want to have this piece removable for fine-tuning everything after the door is made. So once I get this set, then I'll be able to work on that. And let me show you what's going on with this, if I can. I don't think I can actually. Let's see. What can I use? All right, I'll use this stick right here. I pull this out. I didn't write the measurement on here, but that stick fit in there straight. And over here, we're almost like 1/4 of an inch tight. So we've got some serious adjusting to do. Alright, so what we're going to be doing, since this is straight, it's telling me that it's this side that I got to work on. Let me get my level here. I'm only using this for a straight edge. So it's really hard to see, but there's a belly in the middle right here. It only looks like a 1/16 of an inch, but by the time you get up to the top, it adds up to be a lot. So if I get this final installed, it'll be more rigid, and I think I'm going to go ahead and final install this one too, because we've got the same thing going on. The metal is not all that true. See my gap here? Well, actually, the whole thing is loose. Maybe that's my problem. I got to tighten that top screw. I really haven't focused on this side too much, but that's good news. Seeing that. What's going on? Is it touching at the very top? Yeah, it's touching at the very top. So I can make some headway very easily by trimming that. All right, so that's where we are. I get this one installed. I kind of hate doing it because it's going to be out in the weather, but got to make progress. So what I did down here is we had to move this out in order to straighten up our finish end. And what I could have done was plane this board off the whole length, or just I took a piece of the cedar shingle and jammed it in there until it gave me what I was looking for. So when I do the final install on this, I just have to make sure to put that shingle back in its same place. And there's a little hole right there where the screw goes through, so that should be pretty simple. Alright, they're in. You can see the squeeze out, my Gorilla Construction adhesive. So I'm going to start with a piece of cardboard and scrape off the excess, and then come back with my mineral spirits and finish it off. Alright, I got it all cleaned up. So that's what it looks like. It really cleans up nicely. Just plain old mineral spirits and paper towels. That's all it takes, man. So I got the back all caulked. I left the bottom for last. So when I get the 1x4 on the top, then I'll do that. So now, pretty much done for the day. I'm beat. It's hot. Finally got some shade again. The sun went down some. So now I'm gonna finish, I guess, whittling down this thing to make sure it's perfectly straight, which I think I showed you that already. Nice and straight. I'm real happy with this. Now I just gotta work out the rest this side, and then we can start to fabricate the door. I've got a dimension on our door width. It's 28.5 inches, pretty much exactly from left to right, all the way up. I milled off a bunch over there to make it thinner, to widen the gap up. It's super close to being right there at 28.5 inches. Let me just double check, right? 28.5, right? Just double checking here one more time. Yeah, 28.5. Right, and that's between here and here. So we're going to calculate the width of the door. I want 1/8 of an inch space on each side of the door. That's 1/4 of an inch gap. And I'm going to have 1/8 of an inch on each side with this aluminum trim. That's another 1/4. That's 1/2. So the door is going to be 28 inches wide. Now I got to do the same thing to measure the height. But the height's going to be a little bit of a trick because I've got two different heights. There's the height on the hinge side and the height on the doorknob side, because this has got a slope to it. But the bottom line is I'm going to get some 1/2 inch material and make spacers, one to lay across the bottom and one to put up the side, so then I can bring the wood for the door and wedge it in there tight to the spacers, and when I assemble the door, put the screws in the corners, the door will be the same configuration, shape, and everything of the opening minus 1/2 inch. And theoretically, after I assemble it with this stuff on the edges, it'll leave me 1/8 of an inch gap all the way around. All right, it's 20 after 7. I'm calling it quits for the day. I got all my wood planed down. First I ripped about 1/16 of an inch off using the table saw, and I had to rip this to get it a little bit thinner so the stack would all fit together. So here's my 2 pieces of oak for the hinge side. I'm using oak so it'll hold the screw better. And I've got 2 pieces of clear pine for the top and 2 pieces of clear pine here for the bottom, and 2 pieces of clear pine for the doorknob side. I kind of did a little goof on the ripping. What I did is I measured these 2 pieces together. Well, first off, the oak is about 1/32 of an inch thicker than the pine. So, yeah, I measured these together and determined I needed to take off about 60 thousandths of an inch, just a hair under a 1/16. So I took all of that off of one piece, just to make my life easy. Then I realized that these are going to be joined in a fashion like this, a stagger joint. You know, the bottom piece that goes here will be like this, and then the companion piece will be like this. So really the right thing would have been to rip every one of these to the right thickness so they're all the same thickness, so when they lap together over here, you know, everything will be the same. So it's off by 30 thousandths, about 1/32 of an inch. I think we're going to be fine because I reduced the thickness of this to give me some room to work with. And so now I'm going to show you how this is all going to stack up. I can do this with one hand. All right, so keep missing. There we go. Got a piece of the plywood on the bottom. I got the 2 pieces of the 3/4 wood, or 1x, whatever you want to call it. So the plywood is going to be on the inside. Whoa, almost lost the whole show. Plywood is going to be on the inside. The aluminum is going to be on the outside. And this channel is going to cover it all up. And there you go. It's all in there now. Right, and I got a little bit of space I left for adhesive. So this little bit of play that we have, wait a minute, not over there, over here. It's about a 32nd of an inch. The plywood isn't underneath at this point. That's why it looks extra loose over here. But right here, we got about, 20-30 thousandths of an inch. And we could turn this on its end. All right. So pretty much that's what she's going to look like. All right. So, yep, it just fell apart. All right. So I started to do the rough assembly inside the door jamb of the bus, and it's all coming together. Just about every one of these pieces is going to need to be shaved off just a little bit on the ends so it'll fit. I just got it really, really close. So again, if I didn't mention it, I think I did. I've got 1/2 inch thick spacers out of this birch plywood right here, which is actually a little less than 1/2. And so the 1/2 inch makes up for 2 pieces of this, which is 1/8 twice. So that's 1/4 of an inch. And then 1/8 of an inch gap between the edge of the door and the door jamb, which is another 1/4 of an inch. Add all that together, it's 1/2 inch. So the wood part of the door, the wood frame of the door, needs to be 1/2 inch smaller than the opening on one side. All right. I say one side because we're going to share that 1/4 of an inch on each side. So it's all coming together. Everything is looking absolutely great. The only faux pas here, there's my little woman. Say hi.
Hi.
The only faux pas was when I ripped the oak. Of course, I had to start with the most expensive piece of wood. So one of these is about 1/16 of an inch thicker than the other, which means when they're sandwiched together with the pine in the corners, they're going to be 1/32 of an inch off. So I'm not really too concerned. The way I'm going to assemble this thing is going to be assembled in the frame of the bus, like I mentioned. I'm going to jam all the pieces in there and put some spreader pieces of wood between everything, so everything is held out tight to both sides and the top. And then I'm going to have glue applied in the corners and probably 4 screws to screw together each corner while it's in the bus, making the shape of the opening. So it'll be an exact fit that way, theoretically.